The impossible design. Commander Elena Vega stared at the holographic display, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the ship's schematic rotating slowly before her. She'd been working on this design for 3 years. 3 years of calculations, simulations, and countless failures. But now, finally, she believed she had it. "Run the simulation again," she told the AI assistant. "Commander, we've run this simulation 27 times today." The AI replied, its voice neutral but somehow carrying a hint of exhaustion. "And we'll run it 28 times if necessary." Execute. The hologram shifted, showing the sleek vessel, unlike anything in humanity's current fleet, as it engaged its main drive. The simulated ship began to move, its hull surrounded by an ethereal blue-green field that seemed to bend the very fabric of space around it. The energy readings climbed steadily. 30%, 50%, 75%. Elena held her breath. This was where the simulation had failed before, where the physics broke down, and the theoretical ship tore itself apart. 90%, 95%, 100%. The ship held together, its impossible drive propelling it at speeds no human vessel had ever achieved. The simulation completed successfully, and Elena allowed herself a rare smile. "That," said a voice from the doorway, "is still impossible." Elena turned to see Admiral Marcus Chen standing in the entrance to her lab, arms crossed over his chest. His weathered face betrayed nothing, but she knew what he was thinking. The same thing everyone at Fleet Command thought, that Commander Elena Vega was brilliant but delusional. "With respect, Admiral, the math works," Elena said, straightening her uniform jacket. "The Barrett Vega fold is sound. It doesn't violate physics. It just uses principles we haven't fully explored yet. Principles that contradict everything we know about spatial mechanics," Chen replied, walking forward to examine the hologram. "You're asking us to divert resources from proven ship designs to build what? A vessel that folds space around itself, that generates its own gravitational field, in the middle of the worst war humanity has ever faced." Elena's jaw tightened. The Korathi have destroyed 7 colonies in the past year. Their technology outclasses ours in every way. "We're losing this war, Admiral. Which is precisely why we can't afford to waste resources on experimental fantasies." Chen's voice softened slightly. "Elena, you're one of the brightest minds in the fleet. We need you working on practical improvements to our existing ships. Not." He gestured at the hologram. "This. Sir, if we just keep improving our conventional designs, we'll never catch up to the Korathi. We need something revolutionary." Chen shook his head. "The Defense Council meets tomorrow to review new proposals. Present your design if you must, but I'm warning you, they won't approve it." He turned to leave but paused at the door. "And Elena, this is your last chance. If they reject this, you're being reassigned to the Jupiter shipyards to work on shield improvements for the Defender-class destroyers." After he left, Elena collapsed into her chair, rubbing her temples. The Admiral was right about one thing. Tomorrow was her last chance. The Defense Council chamber felt too large and too small at the same time. 12 of the most powerful military and scientific minds in the United Alliance of Earth sat in a semicircle, watching as Elena's simulation played out before them. When it finished, there was silence. Then, one by one, they began to speak. "The power requirements alone would be astronomical," said Dr. Sanji, head of the Propulsion Research Division. "The gravitational stresses would tear apart any known material," added General Torres. "And you expect us to believe this spatial folding doesn't violate conservation of energy?" Dr. Alvarez scoffed. Elena stood her ground. "I've addressed all of these concerns in my proposal. The new alloy developed by Dr. Kimura's team can withstand the stresses. The Barrett Vega fold creates a self-sustaining energy loop that—" "Enough," interrupted Admiral Chen. "Commander Vega, while your creativity is commendable, this council needs to focus on realistic solutions to the Korathi threat." Elena looked around at the faces before her. Most wouldn't meet her eyes. The vote is unanimous, Chen continued. Your proposal is denied. You'll report to Jupiter Station next week to begin your new assignment. Elena gathered her data pad with trembling hands. The Korethi will reach Mars within 6 months at their current pace. By the time you realize conventional weapons won't stop them, it will be too late. She left the chamber, the massive doors closing behind her, with a sound like a coffin lid. That went about as well as expected. Elena looked up to see Dr. Raj Kimura leaning against the wall of the corridor. The material scientist was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a perpetual look of amusement. The vote is unanimous, Chen continued. Your proposal is denied. You'll report to Jupiter Station next week to begin your new assignment. Elena gathered her data pad with trembling hands. The Korethi will reach Mars within 6 months at their current pace. By the time you realize conventional weapons won't stop them, it will be too late. She left the chamber, the massive doors closing behind her, with a sound like a coffin lid. That went about as well as expected. Elena looked up to see Dr. Raj Kimura leaning against the wall of the corridor. The material scientist was in his 50s, with salt and pepper hair and a perpetual look of amusement. You watched? Elena asked. Of course. I wanted to see how they'd react to a genius telling them everything they know is outdated. Despite everything, Elena laughed. Not well, apparently. Never is. Raj fell into step beside her as they walked down the corridor. So, Jupiter Station. Apparently I'm going to spend the rest of this war improving shields that can't stop Korethi weapons anyway. Raj was quiet for a moment. What if you didn't have to? Elena stopped walking. What do you mean? What if there was another way to build your ship? Outside military channels. That would be treason. Maybe. Salvation. Possibly. Raj's expression was deadly serious now. I know someone who might be interested in your design. Someone with resources. Who? Aisha Okoro. Elena's breath caught. The Okoro Mining Consortium. Why would she help us? The Korethi destroyed New Mumbai colony. Her daughter was there. Raj's eyes hardened. Some people are willing to break rules when everything they love is at stake. Elena thought of the billions of lives depending on a miracle to stop the Korethi advance, of her parents on Mars, directly in the invasion path. Set up a meeting, she said. Aisha Okoro's private station orbited Europa, officially serving as a refueling depot for the consortium's mining operations. Unofficially, it was a fortress, with security that rivaled military installations. Elena and Raj sat across from Okoro in her office, with a view of Jupiter's swirling clouds dominating the panoramic window. Aisha was a striking woman in her 60s, with close-cropped white hair and penetrating eyes that seemed to evaluate everything in terms of risk and profit. Dr. Kimura said you have something that might interest me. Commander, Okoro said, her fingers steepled before her. Something worth risking what's left of my family's legacy. Elena activated her data pad, and the hologram of her ship appeared between them. I call it the Defiance, she said, and it could save humanity, if someone has the courage to build it. For the next hour, Elena explained the principles behind her design. Unlike her presentation to the Defense Council, she didn't simplify or hold back. She laid out every complex calculation, every theoretical principle, every innovation that made the impossible possible. When she finished, Okoro was silent, studying the hologram with those calculating eyes. The military rejected this. She finally asked. Unanimously, Elena confirmed. Good. Good. Raj echoed, confused. Okoro smiled, a predatory expression that didn't reach her eyes. It means when we save the human race with this ship, they'll have to admit how wrong they were. She stood. I have an abandoned mining facility in the asteroid belt, completely off the books. I've been moving equipment and materials there for months, preparing for something. I think this is it. Elena could hardly believe what she was hearing. You're saying? I'm saying I'll fund your impossible ship, Commander Vega. I'll provide the facilities, the materials, and the personnel. But you'll need to recruit your own technical team. People you trust. People willing to risk everything. That's illegal, Alina said, though without much conviction. So is standing by it while humanity is exterminated. Okuro's gaze was unflinching. The question is, Commander, how far are you willing to go to save everyone you love? Alina thought of her parents, of Earth, of all the colonies already lost. When can we start? She asked. Okuro's smile widened. We already have. Against all odds. The asteroid mining facility had been converted into a makeshift shipyard over the past 3 months. Hidden in the densest part of the belt, it was shielded from detection by both the surrounding rocks and sophisticated jamming technology. Alina stood on the observation deck, watching as massive robotic arms assembled the frame of what would become the Defiance. The skeleton of the ship was taking shape, its curves unlike the angular military vessels of the United Alliance. Impressive, isn't it? She turned to see Maya Chen, Admiral Chen's daughter, and one of the best engineers in the fleet, joining her at the viewport. The irony of the Admiral's daughter joining their renegade project wasn't lost on Alina. Your father would have a stroke if he knew you were here, Alina said. Maya shrugged. Dad sees the world as it is. You see it as it could be. Right now, we need your vision more than his pragmatism. She handed Alina a datapad. The latest simulations on the drive core. We're having stability issues above 85% power. Alina frowned as she studied the readings. The containment field is fluctuating. We need to recalibrate the quantum stabilizers. Already tried. 3 times. Then we need to redesign them. Alina's voice was firm. This is the most complex drive system ever conceived, Maya. There will be setbacks. Time isn't on our side, Maya reminded her. The Korathi just took the Ganymede outpost. They're accelerating their advance. Mars is evacuating civilians. Alina's heart clenched at the thought of her parents. Were they safe? Had they gotten out? Communications with Mars had been spotty since the Korathi destroyed the relay stations. We'll solve it, she said with more confidence than she felt. Get Raj and the rest of the team. We need a new approach. The problem-solving session lasted 18 hours. 12 of the brightest minds in their fields gathered around holographic displays, arguing, calculating, and occasionally throwing things in frustration. The Barrett-Vega fold creates too much quantum instability, Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka, their quantum physicist, insisted for the 3rd time. The math is sound, but the practical application. The application would work fine if the containment field wasn't fluctuating, countered Dr. Sarah Washington, their field specialist. Both of you are right, Alina interrupted, her voice rough from too much talking and too little sleep. Which means we need to address both issues simultaneously. She manipulated the hologram, making adjustments to both the fold equations and the containment field. What if we don't try to eliminate the quantum fluctuations? What if we use them? The room fell silent as everyone stared at the modified design. You want to create a deliberate resonance pattern in the field, Raj said slowly. Use the fluctuations to strengthen the fold rather than fighting them. Exactly. Like building a suspension bridge that's designed to sway with the wind rather than resist it. Maya's fingers flew over her own console, running simulations. It could work. The math checks out. But we'd need to completely redesign the quantum stabilizers, Sarah pointed out. And recalculate the entire energy distribution system, added Hiroshi. Alina looked around at her team, seeing the mixture of exhaustion and renewed determination on their faces. Then that's what we'll do, she said simply. The next 2 months were a blur of work, breakthroughs, and setbacks. The team essentially lived in the facility, sleeping in shifts when they couldn't stay awake any longer. Meanwhile, the war news grew worse by the day. The Korathi had reached Mars. The colony's defenses had held for 3 weeks, far longer than expected, but eventually fell. Casualties were enormous. Alina had no word about her parents. Earth was preparing for invasion. The remaining fleet had been pulled back to make a last stand in orbit around humanity's homeworld. And still, they worked. The ship's frame was completed. Its revolutionary hull, made of the new alloy Raj had developed, gleamed under the work lights. The drive systems were installed, along with weapon systems that used the same spatial folding technology to deliver devastating energy pulses. 6 months after they began, the Defiance was nearly complete. Elena stood in what would be the bridge, running her hand along the captain's chair. Around her, technicians were installing the final control systems. "It's really happening," said a voice behind her. Aisha Okoro rarely visited the shipyard, preferring to manage logistics remotely. But today she had made the journey. "Thanks to you," Elena replied. "No, thanks to your vision." Okoro walked around the bridge, inspecting everything with a critical eye. "Have you selected your crew?" The question caught Elena off guard. "My crew? You designed her. You're building her. You'll captain her." Okoro's tone suggested this was obvious, unless you prefer to hand your ship over to someone else. Elena had never considered herself a ship captain. She was a designer, an engineer. But the thought of anyone else commanding the Defiance felt wrong. "I'll need a crew I can trust. People who understand what we've built." "Your team," Okoro nodded. "They know the ship better than anyone. They're scientists, not military personnel." "This isn't a military ship, Commander." "Not anymore." Before Elena could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Maya burst onto the bridge, her face pale. "We've been discovered," she said, her voice tight. "United Alliance ships are on approach. They're demanding we surrender and prepare to be boarded." Elena's blood ran cold. "How did they find us?" "Unknown, but they know exactly who we are and what we're doing. They're calling us traitors." Okoro's face hardened. "How long until they reach us?" 2 hours, maybe less." "How long until the Defiance can launch?" Elena asked. Maya hesitated. "The drive is installed, but we haven't run a full system test. The weapons are online but uncalibrated. Life support is functional. Navigation is." "How long, Maya?" 12 hours to do it properly. We could push for an emergency launch in 6, but Elena, it would be incredibly risky." Elena looked around the bridge of her impossible ship, then at the faces of the people who had believed in her vision when no one else would. "Begin emergency launch preparations," she said quietly. "We have 2 hours to get this ship moving." "The military will open fire," Okoro warned. "Let them try." Elena's eyes were hard now, all doubt gone. This ship was built to face the Korathi. "I'm pretty sure it can handle our own people." As Maya rushed off to begin preparations, Okoro studied Elena with new respect. "You really believe in this ship, don't you?" "I believe in the people who built it," Elena replied. "Now we'll see if it was worth all our sacrifices." 2 hours later, the Defiance was as ready as it could be. The crew, consisting entirely of the scientists and engineers who had built her, were at their stations. Elena sat in the captain's chair, Raj and Maya flanking her as her unofficial first and second officers. On the view screen, 3 United Alliance cruisers had taken position around the asteroid base. Their weapons were powered and locked on the Defiance. "This is Admiral Chen of the UAS Intrepid," came the transmission. "Commander Vega, you and your associates are ordered to stand down and surrender immediately. What you've done is high treason during wartime." Elena took a deep breath. "Open a channel." Maya nodded, and Elena looked directly at the image of Admiral Chen that appeared on screen. His face was a mask of anger and disappointment. "Admiral Chen," she said calmly, "I understand how this appears, but we're not traitors. Everything we've done has been to save humanity. By stealing resources, by building an unauthorized vessel using restricted technology, by recruiting military personnel to your illegal operation." Chen's voice was cold. "You've diverted critical resources during our darkest hour." "We've created humanity's only hope," Elena countered. The Defiance can stop the Korathi. Your conventional ships can't. Your ship violates the laws of physics, Commander. It's a fantasy. Then let us prove you wrong. Elena leaned forward. The Korathi will reach Earth in less than a week. Let us engage them. If we fail, you've lost nothing but a group of traitors. If we succeed, humanity survives. Chen was silent for a long moment. You know I can't do that. Power down and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning. Elena looked around at her crew. They all nodded, their faces resolute. I'm sorry, Admiral, but we're launching. If you want to fire on the only chance humanity has left, that's your choice. She cut the transmission and turned to Maya. Initiate launch sequence. Take us out. The Defiance's engines hummed to life, a sound unlike any conventional drive. The ship began to move, accelerating smoothly away from the asteroid base. On the view screen, the Alliance cruisers adjusted their position, weapons locked on target. They're charging weapons, Raj reported, tension evident in his voice. Elena gripped the arms of her chair. Activate the Barrett Vega field. Around the ship, the ethereal blue-green field shimmered into existence, distorting the space around the hull. The Alliance cruisers opened fire. Streams of energy lanced toward the Defiance and bent around it, the spatial distortion redirecting the weapon's fire harmlessly away. It works, Maya whispered, awe in her voice. The field actually works. Of course it works, Elena replied, allowing herself a small smile. Now let's see what else this impossible ship can do. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed. The Defiance's revolutionary drive engaged fully, and the ship shot forward at a velocity that no human vessel had ever achieved before, leaving the Alliance cruisers far behind. They were on their way to face the Korathi, to save Earth, to prove that sometimes the impossible was exactly what humanity needed. Defiance and victory. The journey to Earth took just under 24 hours, a trip that would have required days for any other human vessel. During that time, the crew of the Defiance worked feverishly to calibrate systems, run diagnostics, and prepare for battle. Elena hadn't slept. How could she, knowing what awaited them? The latest reports indicated that the Korathi battle fleet, over 200 ships strong, had breached the outer defense perimeter and was approaching Earth's orbit. The remaining Alliance forces, barely 50 ships, were preparing for a last desperate stand. Entering Earth space in 5 minutes, Maya announced from the navigation console. Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the tactical display. Status report. Drive system operating at 97% efficiency, Raj reported. The Barrett Vega field is stable. Weapons systems are online and calibrated. Communications. Still being jammed by the Korathi, Maya said. We can't contact the Alliance fleet, which meant they would likely be fired upon by both sides when they arrived. Elena had expected this, but had hoped for a chance to explain their presence. We'll have to let our actions speak for us, she decided. Battle stations. Prepare to engage upon arrival. The crew moved with purpose, each person taking their position. They weren't military, but over the past months, they had become something more, a family united by a singular vision. Exiting fold space in 3, 2, 1. The view screen shifted, showing the horrifying spectacle before them. Earth hung in the blackness, beautiful and vulnerable. Around it, the battle rage. Korathi ships, sleek, predatory vessels with hulls that seemed to absorb light, were methodically destroying the Alliance defenders. The human ships fought valiantly, but their weapons barely scratched the alien vessels. My God, whispered Hiroshi from the science station. There are so many of them. And they haven't seen us yet, Elena noted. The Defiance had emerged behind the Korathi formation, unnoticed in the chaos of battle. That gives us an advantage. Target the nearest Korathi command ship. On the tactical display, Maya highlighted a larger vessel in the center of the alien formation. Targeting systems locked. Elena took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth, the first real test of the weapons she had designed. Fire. The Defiance's main weapon, a directed pulse that used the Barrett Vega fold to concentrate energy to impossible levels, lashed out. The beam struck the Korathi ship's shields, and for a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, like paper catching fire, the alien shields collapsed, and the beam cut through the vessel from stem to stern. The Korathi command ship split apart, secondary explosions rippling along its length. Silence fell over the Defiance's bridge, everyone staring in shock at what they had just accomplished. No human weapon had ever penetrated Korathi shields so easily. The moment of victory was short-lived. The alien fleet reacted instantly, a dozen ships breaking formation to engage this new threat. Multiple vessels incoming, Raj warned. They're targeting us. Evasive maneuvers, Alina ordered. Maintain the field at maximum power. The Defiance moved with incredible agility for its size, the spatial folding technology allowing it to change direction in ways that defied conventional physics. Korathi energy weapons fired, most missing entirely. Those that did hit were deflected by the Barrett Vega field. Alina leaned forward in her chair. Return fire. Target their propulsion systems. Again and again, the Defiance struck, each shot disabling the Korathi vessel. The alien ships, for all their technological superiority, had never faced anything like this before. Their tactics, honed against conventional human vessels, proved ineffective against the Defiance's revolutionary capabilities. The Alliance ships are regrouping, Maya reported, excitement creeping into her voice. They're seeing what we're doing. On the tactical display, the remaining human vessels had indeed formed a new defensive line, taking advantage of the confusion in the Korathi ranks. Can we communicate with them yet? Alina asked. Maya shook her head. Still jammed, but... She paused, a smile spreading across her face. They're adapting their attack pattern to support us. They know we're on their side. Alina felt a surge of pride. Even without direct communication, the Alliance ships recognized an ally. Incoming transmission. Hiroshi suddenly called out. It's breaking through the jamming, on an old emergency frequency. Put it through, Alina ordered. Admiral Chen's face appeared on screen, his expression a mixture of disbelief and grudging respect. Commander Vega, it appears your impossible ship works after all. Despite everything, Alina smiled. It appears so, Admiral. We're adjusting our tactics to support your attacks. The Korathi are vulnerable when they concentrate their fire on you. Understood. We'll draw their attention while you target the exposed ships. Chen nodded. And Commander, when this is over, assuming we survive, we'll have a long discussion about your methods. Looking forward to it, sir. The transmission ended, and Alina turned back to the battle. The Defiance continued to slice through the Korathi formation, its weapons devastating the alien ships while its defensive field rendered it nearly invulnerable. The Alliance vessels, following the Defiance's lead, exploited the gaps created in the Korathi defenses. For the first time since the war began, humanity was winning. 2 hours into the battle, the tide had clearly turned. Over half the Korathi fleet had been destroyed or disabled, and the remainder were beginning to retreat. They're breaking formation, Raj reported. The alien command structure seems to be collapsing. The Alliance ships are pursuing, Maya added. Alina studied the tactical display. There's their flagship. She pointed to a massive vessel at the edge of the formation, surrounded by a protective screen of smaller ships. If we can take it out, the entire invasion might collapse. It's heavily defended, Raj cautioned, and our drive system is showing strain from continuous operation. Alina weighed the risks. They had already achieved the impossible, already turned the tide of a war that had seemed hopeless. Was it worth risking everything for one final blow? She thought of all the colonies that had fallen, of Mars, of her parents, whose fate she still didn't know. Plot an intercept course, she decided. We're ending this today. The Defiance surged forward, cutting through the Korathi defensive screen. Enemy fire intensified, some of it beginning to stress even the revolutionary field surrounding the ship. Field integrity at 85%. Hiroshi warned. The aliens are adapting their weapons. Divert additional power to the field, Alina ordered. Weapon status. Main weapon charged and ready, Maya replied. But we'll need to get closer for a guaranteed kill against their flagship. Alina nodded. Take us in. The Defiance plunged deeper into the enemy formation, taking hit after hit. Warning indicators flashed across multiple consoles. Field integrity dropping. 70%. 65%. They were almost in position. The Korethi flagship loomed before them, its massive weapons focusing on the Defiance. Field at 60%. We can't take much more of this. Prepare to fire main weapon, Alina commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. Maximum power. The Defiance shuddered as another barrage struck its weakening field. Field at 50%. Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. In range. Maya shouted. Weapon locked. Fire. The Defiance's main weapon discharge, the energy drain momentarily dimming lights throughout the ship. The concentrated beam struck the Korethi flagship dead center, punching through its reinforced shields like they weren't even there. The massive alien vessel convulsed as the beam cut deeper, touching off a chain reaction in its power core. Brace for impact. Alina yelled as the flagship began to break apart. The explosion was blinding, the shockwaves slamming into the Defiance with tremendous force. The Barrett Vega field, already stressed to its limits, collapsed. The ship tumbled, emergency systems blaring as it was thrown clear of the blast. When the chaos subsided, Alina pulled herself back into her chair, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead. Status report. Drive system offline, Raj coughed, working at his damaged console. Field generators burned out. Weapons systems damage. But the main hull is intact. This ship is tougher than it looks. The Korethi? Alina asked. Maya looked up from her station, a smile breaking through the grime on her face. Retreating. All of them. The remaining Alliance ships are pursuing, but she shook her head in wonder. We did it, Alina. We actually did it. Alina looked around at her crew, scientists and engineers who had become warriors when humanity needed them most. Each face showed exhaustion, pain, but also an unmistakable pride. No, she corrected gently. We did it. All of us. Together. 3 days later, Alina stood in the Alliance headquarters in Geneva, facing the same Defense Council that had rejected her design a year earlier. Admiral Chen sat at the center, his expression unreadable. Commander Alina Vega, he began formally. You stand before this council having committed numerous violations of Alliance law, including but not limited to misappropriation of military resources, recruitment of personnel for unauthorized operations, construction of an unregistered warship, and direct disobedience of orders. Alina stood straight, her uniform crisp despite the bandage still visible at her temple. You also, Chen continued, his voice softening slightly, saved Earth and possibly all of humanity from extinction. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Where there had once been skepticism and dismissal, now there was something else. Respect, perhaps even awe. The Defiance and its technology have changed everything we thought we knew about physics, propulsion, and defensive systems, Chen said. Your Barrett Vega fold has opened possibilities we never imagined. And your actions, while technically treasonous, were undertaken with the sole purpose of protecting humanity. He looked around at the other council members, who all nodded in agreement. This council has therefore decided that all charges against you and your crew are to be dismissed. Furthermore, you are hereby promoted to the rank of captain, with the Defiance officially commissioned as the first vessel of the new Vega-class ships. Alina could hardly believe what she was hearing. Sir, Chen actually smiled. We need more impossible ships, Captain Vega. And you're going to help us build them. As the council members rose to congratulate her, Elena thought of the long journey that had brought her here, of the design that everyone had said was impossible, of the team that had believed when no one else would. Sometimes, she reflected, the impossible was exactly what humanity needed to survive, and sometimes it took defying the rules to change the game entirely. Outside the council chamber, Earth continued to turn, safe for now, and in orbit above it, the Defiance waited, the impossible ship that had changed everything.